They offered it at 74.
Good evening, everyone. Calling to order the February 23rd Daytona Beach Shores City Council meeting. Sherry, can you take a roll, please?
Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Frizzlone?
Yes.
Councilmember Plius?
Here.
Thank you, Sherry. Reverend Bob, could you please lead us in prayer?
Let us pray. O Holy One, known by many names and yet beyond all names, we ask your blessing on this meeting and upon the people who have been called to lead our city. Help them as leaders to ask wise questions before making crucial decisions. Questions like, what do we need to learn? How might we need to change? And to whom do we need to listen? Remind us, because we all forget from time to time, that government leaders at every level are also servants, selected to serve the common good of all. And no matter where we live, we do not live in isolation, but with neighbors who need our respect, compassion, and understanding, especially the children, the elderly, the poor, those who are hungry, those who have no homes, those who are ill in body, mind, or spirit, the strangers in our midst, those who live on the margins, those who are alone, those who are forgotten. Grant us all the wisdom and courage to know and do what is right and good and true. Help us speak out when it is time to speak out, and listen patiently and receptively when it is time to listen, always guided by the spirit of community, the principles of justice, and the heart of love. In this moment now, may the people of Texas and all those devastated by the storms this past week feel our love and compassion. For this we pray in the name of the Creator of all that we hold sacred and holy. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Reverend Bob, before you leave, can you give us a little update? I know we had a different day of the duels last year. We had more or less this year, a little bit of a reversal. Can you tell us how it turned out?
I sure can, and first I want to thank the City Council and the City of Daytona Beach Shores for the great support they gave to the event, not only in the years past when it was a car show, but this year when we had to convert it to a drive-through food drive. And hopefully next year we'll be back to a car show and enjoying those things that we love to do during race week as well. But I did want to report that Halifax Urban Ministries sent one of their larger box trucks to the event to collect the food, and it was completely full from front to back when it drove away to deliver that food to the different food pantries around Volusia County. Also, combined with the donations of very generous people who normally would have supported the car show, plus the generous donations of our church family, we will be presenting Halifax Urban Ministries with a check of over $8,000 from that event. And just to compare that to what we normally send, it's about the same. So thank you so much again for your help and support.
Can you also tell them a little bit about the honor that we were able to give John Mafucci?
Yes, John and Rita Mafucci have been the driving force, no pun intended, behind the car show for the past 7 years. 7 years of the event. This would have been the 8th year. And we took the opportunity to honor John and Rita. Unfortunately, Rita wasn't able to be there. She was under the weather and still is not feeling well. So please keep both John and Rita in your thoughts and prayers. But the city was so gracious to present John and Rita with a key to the city, for which they were very honored. and the church likewise had a presentation. We felt like even though it wasn't a car show this year, we ought to have a trophy for someone, so we gave it to John and Rita. So,
Well, thank you very much. We were honored to be there.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, we have no presentations or employee awards today, so we'll go on to the approval of the minutes. So the City Council Charter Workshop that was held on February 9th, 2021. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, any discussion on those? If not, and I do want to remind us that we will be meeting again on February 9th at, I think 4:30?
March 9th,
March 9th.
4:30.
4:30, okay, thank you. And Sherry, can you take a roll?
5:30.
Councilmember Frizzalone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Councilmember Politis?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, thank you. And next, the City Council minutes from February 9th, 2021. Do I hear a motion to accept those minutes as is?
Motion to accept those minutes as is.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion of those minutes? If not, Sherry, can you take a roll on that, please?
Councilmember Frizzalone?
Yes.
Councilmember Politis?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, thank you. On our consent agenda this evening, we have 5 items there. Are there any items that need to be pulled before I ask a motion to accept? If not, can I please have a motion to accept those consent agenda items?
Motion to accept those consent items.
Second.
Any discussion? Or can you take a roll, please?
Councilmember Frizzalone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Councilmember Politis?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, thank you. Attorney Carey, what report do you have for us this evening?
Did I miss you doing the consent agenda already?
I'm sorry?
I just did that.
Oh, you just did the consent.
Just zipping along.
Yeah, I'm moving right along here.
Okay, so for the city attorney report, we had amended the invitation bid for the city's property at 136 Beach Culver Street so that the finance director can put that up on the market. We presented the overview of the charter review process and began the process of drafting amendments as directed, so that we'll have something to bring you for the next meeting in a couple weeks. Provided legal counsel at the economic development meeting and began legal research on matters discussed during that meeting. And research and prepared memo for council discussion for micromobility devices, which we'll see later in the agenda. Reviewed pre-trial motions for the opioid litigation and reviewed and revised revisions to the SAP's 2021 employee manual.
Thank you. Any questions for Attorney Carey?
Yeah, could you just summarize the status of the opioid litigation at a very high level?
Yeah. So they think that Purdue is going to, is going to settle. I actually talked to the attorney as well, who's handling the litigation for this. Any sort of proceeds that we end up getting from a settlement or otherwise are probably going to need to be earmarked specifically towards opioid, providing a remedy for the opioid crisis. So it's not just going to be money that's going to go into the general fund. We're beginning conversations with the county and some other cities in the county to see if there's some collaborative use of the funds that we may end up going with if we end up getting funds. And so I'll be talking to Mike soon about if he has a staff person that he wants included in these discussions. I'm sure he probably will because it will involve spending money. And so so we are in the process of beginning to look at the end game for this, but it's still probably a ways off before any checks are written.
And this did not cost the city anything at all to enter this litigation, is that
That's correct.
Thank you. Any other questions for Attorney Carey? Okay, thank you. If not, we'll move on to our city manager Booker's report.
Madam Mayor, 3 items tonight, actually 4. Swap agreements. The final 2 swap agreements for the city's outstanding loans have been executed. All the documents have been signed. This currently places Daytona Beach Shores in a debt-free financial position.
Okay, I want to stop you right there before you go on. Kurt, thank you for all your help on that, and residents of Daytona Beach Shores, I hope you realize how important this is, that we as a city are completely debt-free. With everything that we went through with COVID, other cities are in very bad financial shape. I'm just so pleased, thank you to you, City Manager Booker and Attorney, Assistant City Manager and Director of Finance. Thank you very much. I mean, this is a big deal. Thank you. If you want to go on.
Public safety, recently the department has conducted interviews with several potential candidates. Based upon the support of the city council, recruitment appears to be up. Hopefully this trend will continue so we may be back to our optimal service levels. We're still far from that position, but we're getting there. Treasure Island, the city attorney and city staff are working on a draft development agreement, a DA, between the owners of the property and the city. The DA would go before a planning board and then on to city council once it is developed. The current owners of Treasure Island have asked for confidentiality at this point in time, and they do not wish to divulge any details of that agreement. And last but not least, Madam Mayor, I know we've gotten a lot of calls about the flags being flown at half-staff. It is not for Rush Limbaugh, I can assure you, it's not for that. It may be later with Governor DeSantis, but currently the President has issued an executive order to fly the flags at half-staff in honor of those who have died of COVID-19. So that's the reason for the flags at half-staff.
Thank you for that explanation. Chief Dubinsky, can I ask you then, can you give us any feedback for those of you that weren't in the audience? We had a workshop a couple weeks ago that our public safety was almost in a state of emergency, and not just us, a lot of cities across the country too. So we gave direction to our chief for 2 things that we hope will help. We've raised the starting pay for our public safety and authorized take-home cars. And I'd like some feedback now that you're going through interviews.
Excuse me. This is going to be a long process, but we've had a lot more interest in coming to work here. Applicants, we're making headway. I'm not going to tell you this is an overnight thing. It's not. But definitely what you folks did is helping a lot, and it's causing a lot of people to be a lot more anxious to work here and to stay.
That's what I was going to ask you too.
You totally succeeded in what I asked for, or what we're trying to do. Of course, you forgot to mention that we have a dog now, which has really, really made everybody excited. It's a poodle, but hey, we're going to start somewhere. So
Exactly.
Well, this is Daytona Beach Shores, so.
Yeah.
only in the shores.
Okay. And does it stay there 24/7?
He lives. He's quite a dog. He lives there all the time. He's a pup, and he's loving it. And it has improved morale tremendously. But all kidding aside, thank you for everything that you offer to do, and it is working. And with Kurt and Mike behind me like this, it's going to work. I feel much more confident the last couple of weeks than I did when I was here before.
Have you heard any buzz from any of the nearby cities?
Yes.
Positive, hopefully?
They're all trying to do something because it's very difficult. Everybody has. I had lunch with the Port Orange chief today, actually, and he was telling me that they're way down in their staffing, and the sheriff is way down in his staffing. People don't want to do this. I mean, I get it, but it's a noble profession, and it's just tough times going through, and we have to make it attractive for people to want to get into this business. And unfortunately, it is what it is, and I've never seen it like this in all the years I've been in this business, but we'll get past it.
I think one of the things I'm sure you stress is how well they're regarded here and respected, as opposed to other cities who want to defund and so forth.
Yeah, yes, Mel, that's a big part of it. People understand that when they come here, and right now I'm just in the starting process to hire a few more people, and then we're gonna start with having them discuss how much they're appreciated and stuff like that. But you got to get them kind of in the door first, and they have to want to do this. And that's the hardest part.
Okay, great, thank you.
How many interviews have we had so far?
6 or 7. Yeah, it's an ongoing process. We're reviewing applications every day now, so.
And what's the role of the dog?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
What's the role of the dog?
Emotional support.
Yeah.
Just a poodle.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for our city manager? If not, thank you. All right, next we'll go on to old business. So the first thing would be the discussion of the electric motor scooters and electric bikes. I think we gave some direction to our city attorney last month to look into this. Again, Attorney Carey, I want to make sure that we're dividing this up into 2 different things. So the first thing that we discussed last week was the safety issue of those being on the sidewalks. And I think we agreed that they're not restricted by the state. Somebody could rent one in Daytona, wherever, and drive them here. So the next issue was how they looked. So we went a little bit into code enforcement. I personally visited most of the sites that do have these bikes right now. I didn't see any more than 4 or 5, and they are lined up quite orderly. So I had a discussion with our community service director, and I think I slightly mentioned it too. Tell me how, if we started to do a permit for these, it would add a little bit more structure to it.
Sure, the way, okay, so, right now in the city of Daytona Beach shores, we don't have any regulations regarding scooters. As you noted, anybody could drive a scooter on the street from Daytona or from the South Ponce Inlet into the shores, and because it's a street legal vehicle, there's really nothing you can do about it. That's covered by Chapter 316 of the Florida statutes, which allows street legal vehicles to be driven on city streets throughout the state, and that's preempted. However, you could obviously require a business, for example, to obtain a license from the city in order to rent them on location. You could also prohibit them from being dropped outside of specific areas by rental companies, so that they can't just drop them on the sidewalks, as we've seen in other cities. If you've gone to Atlanta or Miami or somewhere where they have them just all over the sidewalks. You could restrict it by zoning, so only allow scooter rentals in certain zoning categories. You really have a lot of options at your disposal as far as regulating the rental. There's even a case in the first DCA decided where Bay County, or excuse me, Panama City Beach, basically decided to prohibit rentals in the city, and that was upheld by the first DCA. So, you know, as far as driving on the streets, there's not much you can do, but controlling the rentals, you have a wide variety of options if you wanted to regulate the rental aspect of it through both home rule power and because the statute explicitly allows regulations. You could also, if you wanted, restrict use on the sidewalks. Right now, the default that the state provides is that scooters are basically treated like bicycles. That's just a default standard. The statute explicitly allows you to regulate them differently. So right now, anywhere that bicycles are allowed, the scooters would be allowed, but you can control access, for example, on sidewalks if you wanted to, and force them into the streets. And that's a policy decision that you would have to decide.
And I don't think that's something with our street being A1A with 4 lanes of traffic that I would want to go to. I don't know how anyone else feels.
And there are a few other things that you can't regulate in accordance with court cases that have been done, and that's equipment. You can't require them to wear vests or a helmet or other equipment because the state's preempted that. Insurance requirements, and then registrations or licensing. So beyond those things, though, you pretty much have a wide variety of options depending on the policy preferences of the city council.
Okay, thank you. From hearing some of the business, and I have 2 people that want to address this issue, and I'll let them go next. From hearing some of the business owners that were here last week, this is additional revenue that they are getting in the COVID times, that a lot of their business is not gonna be there. So, I'd like to be able to support them in that business. I want something, though, that I don't want them thrown all over. And, so we would have to maybe limit how many they had at each location. So let me let our people that are here today, the two audience members. So first I had Mickey Peterson.
Yes.
Thank you, Mickey. Just state your name and address and what business you have, please.
Okay, Mickey Peterson, 2009 and 2011 South Atlantic Avenue. It's the Flamingo Inn and the Mix Beach Hideaway. And I've participated with the scooter people there, and that has been wonderful. Both for the business, because we made some additional money, but also for the customers we have at the hotel. It's fun, it's inexpensive, and all the families just seem to enjoy it. And myself and my family, we enjoy it also. I was a consumer before I joined up with them. So it's been great, both for revenue, and I think it's hard to put an exact monetary on it. We've gotten our commission from the scooter people, but it has also helped the hotels because of the families that stay there. It's just more fun, something quick, easy to do. So I hope that maybe you can come up with something that's pretty easy to comply with, or at least not ban them altogether.
And Mr. Peterson, how many do you have on hand, or right on your location? How many usually?
Generally, maybe 5 or 6 of them. A lot of times it falls down to 2 or 3 of them. But I think that the company has been really great. They kind of move them around town from where there's a demand. Sometimes they'll actually come to our location, pick up scooters if we have too many, and drive them to a different location where there's a higher demand. And as far as seeing them on occasion, I've seen some lay around on the streets, but you really can't do that because you get penalized. If you don't return the scooter to a participating location, then you get penalized on your credit card. So there's all the incentives to return it. Well, not to necessarily where you rented it. That's kind of the appeal of it. When they had it in Daytona, we would rent them here in the Shores, drive down, drop them off at a location there, and a couple hours later, after we've been to the boardwalk and whatever, we would rent one and drive back up here. So I hope something can be worked out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor? The gentleman that's sitting with you was here last week. Could you come up, please?
Oh, that wasn't, no, that's Gary Brown.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Is it okay if Gary comes up now?
Sure.
Okay, Gary.
Gary Brown, 2411 South Atlantic Avenue, Sun Viking Lodge. I've been here for 50 years, and nobody's ever paid me commission like these guys have. It is definitely an incentive for us, but beyond that, it is, like Mickey said, it is great for the customers. We specialize in families, and families come and they love the experience, the scooters. It's something different for them to do. We have a lovely pickleball court here, it's a facility, thanks to you. We have a lovely golf course here, thanks to you. But we need more things for people to do in this city. And that's something that seems to be working out very well. I understand the safety concerns. There's no question. They zip along the sidewalks, and that is a concern. And I hope you guys are smarter than me and can figure out something where we can all win from the situation. I was sitting there thinking, I'm going, maybe you make the people wear a cowbell or something so you can hear them coming down the sidewalk. I don't know. But it is something that the tourists certainly enjoy. It is a little extra incentive for the hotels. The company is great. They work with everybody and try to take and be a good business partner. So I hope we can figure out something where everybody gets a win-win. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in, Gary.
can I comment, please?
Certainly.
Gary and all the other business people who are involved in this, we indicated at the last meeting that we are looking for ways that we can work this out. And we certainly appreciate the businesses in our cities. One of the things that we talked about was making it mandatory to do training prior to that. And that's what was suggested by the other gentleman that was here, who said that they would do training before. One of the things that I requested, because I've experienced this a number of times because I walk a lot, and they come up 2 and 3 abreast, racing each other on the sidewalk, and that is, I'm agile enough to move around, but when they come up from the back, unless they're making noise, I ask them in part of the training to make this single file, not double or triple wide where they're racing each other, single file. But one thing I forgot to mention to him, and I'd like to mention tonight, and to make it part of any package that we come up with, but in addition to making them stay single file, when they come up from behind, a lot of people don't have good hearing here, and they don't make any noise. So the cowbell that you talked about is not that far-fetched. We need to make it part of the training that they alert people when they're coming up from behind. When I'm coming up from behind, since I walk faster than most people, I say, coming up on your left, just to make sure that I don't scare the people. But I think these people, it's more important now because they're coming up very fast, that they do make some kind of alarm or announcement that they're coming up, and not only coming up from behind, but coming up on your left or coming up on your right, depending on where the pedestrian is. I think that would go a long way to helping. But I would like to see that as part of any agreement that we work out. But I'm not the only one. There's no guarantee that it's going to be agreed, but I'm saying we certainly want to help the local businesses as much as we can. And that is one of the things that is most concerned to me.
Mm-hmm. Community Service Director Hyatt, can you come up just a minute? I know you and I had a very brief conversation, so I don't want to put you on the spot. But tell me, if we were going to permit this, the permit would be for the scooter company, correct? Every place that they storm would not need a permit.
My understanding with some of the cities, the one that I reviewed that John Kerry provided, I think was the City of Orlando, had a permit application process, and there was an application fee for the company. So if we had 2, 3, 4 companies in the city, and so that permit process laid out some rules that were created by the City of Orlando, some areas that they were allowed to be, where they weren't allowed to be, it limited the fleet, perhaps, of how many would be allowed in your city. Set rules like maybe how many per business, and so all those things are on the table, like Attorney Kerry said. And it's you can use a permit process, you can use a franchise agreement process, or you could just have an ordinance.
Okay, all right, and that permit fee, I know in Orlando is very hefty.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to, for us to be making any money on this. I'm more interested in, if we have a permit, that we were able to speculate or to specify what you could do and what you can't do.
Right.
Attorney Kerry, well, where do we go? Let me ask everybody here how they feel about it. Do you want them banned completely? Do you want to try to work together that we can work something out? Councilman Politis, can you tell me what your feelings are on this?
I wouldn't be in favor of banning them. I respectfully disagree with you, Madam Mayor, that I think there should be a fee associated with the permit process, but maybe we delegate to the city attorney to put regulations that make sense, like Fred was saying, how many units are allowed in hotels as opposed to those people that actually rent them for a business. They can throw out 20 or 30 and it won't look, My concern is we are servants of the citizens. I want to look out for them. So the way to regulate it is to police it in a sensible way. But also, we spent millions of dollars to bury all those electrical lines. The sidewalks and the city just looks gorgeous. Mm-hmm. I don't want anything unsightly in front of the hotels or establishments that's not their main business, to line up 20 of them. and it looks a little bit like a circus. But I think we can regulate responsibility and about the pickups and the drop-offs and how you're allowed to display them. It's like a twofold. One, we have to deal with the permit, and then second, we have to deal with regulation, and we have to get involved and get Chief Dembinski involved, because how are they gonna regulate? Will it be a city ordinance violation if you are weaving in and out of traffic, or if you're on the sidewalk and you're not allowed to be there? So there needs to be some teeth behind the regulation, but I'm for allowing the city attorney to go to the next step and participating with those that can influence how it's gonna work, and we'll continue to look at it.
Okay. And I definitely understand there'd be a permit fee, just not, what was Orlando's? Wasn't
I
it?
don't remember off the top of my head, but it was, I think Fred does.
It was fair.
It's excessive.
Orlando, yeah, it was actually $5,000 is my recollection, plus they got a percentage of each ride, like a quarter per ride or something of that
So
nature.
I would want it in line with the rest of our businesses, so that's all I was saying, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Councilman Frizzolo, do you?
I agree with all of Councilman Pelaez's comments. I would add that, you have a good relationship with all the mayors and a good relationship with the county council, so you reach out to them. In my humble opinion, I look at this very simplistically to try to boil it down to its most simple level. And I think Councilman Politis about the chief, weaving in and out, weaving in and out. It seems to me that you have, it's a motor operated vehicle. You can call it whatever you want, but it's got a motor attached to it. I think that we should have our attorney, John Kerry, look at it, and we should have a rule that says that it cannot be rented out unless you have a driver's license. And to me, that cuts down the majority of risks that we have, because if you have the ability to operate a vehicle and you can drive, I find having them take that to the next level. As these gentlemen said, it's about fun, it's about having a good time, it's about the experience. And if you have, if you're 16 years old and you have a driver's license, and we expect that you would be able to obey the rules of the road, given you already know that. But, having 12-year-old boys, again, I am being gender specific, 12 and 13, 14-year-old boys zipping down without having any driver's license or any experience, I think is incredibly dangerous. I would suggest that you reach out to this is something that we can take a leadership position on. And you have, to your credit, Madam Mayor, you have a tremendous relationship with your fellow mayors. Give them a call and say, listen, this is what we're thinking about, but I would say that we can have them as providing that the people who are renting them have their driver's license.
My opinion, though, is legally I'm not sure that we can do that because of the statute that I cited in the memo, which is 316.2128. The state has basically taken a position that you can drive these without having a driver's license, and so we can't regulate that locally, which is my opinion. I think I saw, I don't know if the chief wants to add anything to that, if you have an opinion or not. Okay.
John, you're the attorney, but
Yeah.
my knowledge of these scooters and the bikes is you don't have to have a driver's license. However, not sure that the company wouldn't be agreeable to not renting them in our city, at least to people under a certain age. The problems we've had have been with young children on these scooters especially.
Right.
And I'm not saying that 16 is the age, but I wish the company would not rent them to small children, but when the parents give them to the kids, that happens. But the close calls we've had have been with young children.
That's what it is, it's the parents, once the parents rent it, how do they know, what cousins or nephews?
That's the issue is.
So there's a couple issues at play, and maybe I should parse this out a little better so I'm clear.
Okay.
I think as part of your regulations, we could probably prevent them from being rented to somebody who's under 16 or not licensed. But as an operational matter, if they're on the street without a license, the chief isn't going to be able to ticket them.
But I agree with the chief. I agree with the chief's. It seems to me, you know this better than anybody does. I mean, this is your wheelhouse. I guess the message that the chief is giving you is that to the best of your ability, John, to try to fence it. And I think the chief's direction is very good by saying if you can't fence it by motor vehicle license, fence it by age. There's a big difference between a 16-year-old person and a 12-year-old person. I think that's, you know, it is what it is. So I think the chief's direction is that, to his credit, if you can't fence it by having a driver's license, then we can fence it by age.
And would that go against state statute?
No, I don't think so if it's geared towards the rental itself, who you're renting it to. But, just to be frank, if, like you said, if somebody rents one for their 12-year-old son and gives it to them, I don't think the chief would be able to take it then. I think that would violate Chapter 316. So.
I want you to give us all the facts, so.
Yeah. So I think we could draft something that would cut out probably a majority of the cases, but, in the case of somebody who wants to rent one for their underage son, give it to them, rent it in their name, give it to them. If the chief finds them out on the street, he's not really gonna be able to do a whole lot. So it'd be more of a business regulation than regulating the driver, if that makes sense.
I have a question about electric bikes. So the same thing too. Electric bikes I know are very expensive, but for a parent that buys an electric bike and lets their 12-year-old son ride that bike, there's really nothing we can do.
No.
Well, okay.
Right. If they own it themselves, there's nothing we can do.
Okay. So we're trying to go around the rental part of it.
Right. That's what we can regulate is the rental aspect, not the operational aspect.
Good.
Because the operational aspect, now there are certain operational aspects you could regulate. Like I said, if you wanted to keep them off the sidewalks, you could do that. But as far as it's being a street legal vehicle, to the extent that it's being driven in the street, the chief's not going to be able to write any tickets because that's preempted by the state. So I hope I clarified that a little better.
You did a nice job. Chief, let me ask a question. When I was a young boy and I was 14 years old, we used to use Yamaha dirt bikes, and we went to the dirt bike places. We didn't go on the roads, but we did what we did. If you have an experience where you have a 14-year-old boy, a 12-year-old boy with, to the mayor's point, they bought the bicycle, it's got an engine to it, and they're zipping in and out of traffic. You articulated yourself brilliantly. They're zipping in and out of traffic. You see it. Your officers see it. What do you do?
Are you talking on the sidewalk or on the street?
Whatever. Reckless is reckless. Sidewalk, street.
That's a different deal. That we can handle.
Okay.
It's, what John is talking about is action, being in possession of the motor scooter, or I'm sorry, the electric scooter, or the bicycle. But the actual behavior, we can deal with that.
That's an important point.
Yeah, it is.
I'm wondering whether we can create some regulations that are temporary for, let's say, a period of time, 90 days, a trial period to see how it works, and then revisit it at 90 days to see how we have to tweak it. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, governments do that all the time. I believe the Orlando ordinance that Fred talked about is a pilot program. I think theirs is for a year, not 90 days. But basically the idea is let's allow them for a year, see how it goes, and then revisit it.
Because what I would like to do is I would like to let the businesses operate with the restrictions that we impose on them. But then within 90 days or 180 days or whatever, I wouldn't want it to go too long. Try to get together with the residents and see how the residents feel, because we represent both. We represent the business community and we represent the residents. So if there are some problems the residents bring up and they're consistent, then we can tweak things a little bit to make sure that that they work. So I'm really wanting to work for the businesses and for the residents. So that's where I'm at. And we need to bring the people together and write the rules, regulations, whatever, that'll make that happen.
Okay, I think we're at the point right now. Count, do you have something?
If I remember correctly, one of the ordinances said, if it's well marked on a sidewalk saying do not ride on this part of the sidewalk, you can enforce that, right?
Yes, that's the Orlando ordinance, and basically we gave the city manager discretion to identify sidewalks that they're not allowed on, post clearly visible signs, And then if that sidewalk is marked with the signs, then the police could take action, and either cite them or tell them you're not allowed to be on the sidewalk. And so that's an option at your disposal if you would want to do that.
Well, in my opinion, that would eliminate 99% of the problems. The sidewalk seems to be the biggest issue that I've encountered.
Fred?
Sorry to interject, but I just wanted to bring up one wrinkle, and I know Attorney Carey knows about it, but predominantly where these are written are on the sidewalks that are on A1A, and it's a state road, it's a state sidewalk. So I know we do have an agreement with them for some of the maintenance and stuff, but I don't know if that would allow us to regulate, but that would be a wrinkle we'd have to get through, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that would just involve, finding our DOT contact and seeing if they would agree to enforce or to allow us to enforce limitations. But yeah, it is a DOT right away on A1A specifically.
I think my issue would be, though, if we blocked off any of the sidewalks on A1A and told them they couldn't go there, what is their alternative except going on A1A, which I absolutely do not want that to happen. I mean, there's nowhere else you can go, right?
Not that I know of. I mean, if there were bike lanes or that on the street, I think it'd be a little safer, but, they're probably safer for the rider on the sidewalk, but maybe not the walker, so.
Well, I wouldn't even, myself, when I'm riding around section in Daytona that has a lot of bikes on it, I hate, I just hate that because they weave in and out. So not only for the safety of the rider, I think also for the cars on the street.
I think, honestly, I think that's the best point all night long so far. I mean, when you're driving and, given the liability and lawsuits, I mean, when I see sorry?
They don't even have lights.
Absolutely, they don't even have lights. I mean, you are, the mayor is 100% right. You are treading lightly and you move as far as left as you can, and if there's no cars coming at you, you move further left, and if they do, you move, but you are scared to death that all somebody has to do is sneeze or cough and move off the road and you hit them.
Right. Exactly. So I think we're at the point right now that, Attorney Carey, can you work with staff then, coming up, and maybe you can bring something back to us next meeting or the meeting after? I think we had said, and I want to see if we still agree with that. Fred, did we say that we were, I know Gwen was giving some citations out. Did we say we were going to put that on a hold until we decided what we were going to do? So is everyone all right to go status quo until we come up with, we're going to go with? Okay.
Yeah, correct. That's the way we held it in abeyance.
All right. I just want to say, one of the things I saw 5 or 6 in a row, very orderly parked. I don't know where someone mentioned 20 or something. One of the things, Attorney Carey, I want to see is a limit to each business, how many they can have. Because I think if we get up, there's no way to control.
Do you have a number in mind, or do you want me to work with the city staff to come up with a number?
I'm thinking 5 or 6, but Fred?
Fine by me.
You have those two entities, the one on Dunlawton that specifically rents these, they should be entitled to more, and then that
No,
Boogie Down Rentals.
That's an e-bike.
Well, they're probably gonna have this product as well. And the same thing with Boogie Down Rentals. So where they have the golf carts and the e-bikes on display, they should probably, if they have the capacity, just as long as it's not unsightly, probably entitled to more than, I would say, a hotel or a strip plaza that is an ancillary business. When it's your main business, I think you should be entitled to have more on your property because it's your main source of income.
Okay.
Would you be willing to consider a difference if they're stored inside versus outside? Like if they're able to store them inside, you would allow them to have more, as long as it's limited to 5 or 6 outside, something like that?
Sure.
So, we're going to have to do some tweaking.
Oh, for sure.
I'm thinking more, we did something else for 90 days, and it seemed before we even got a chance to analyze it, those 90 days was over. I don't want to go a year, but I'm leaning more towards 6 months.
Agreed. I totally agree.
If you could put that in there too, unless somebody has some objection.
I'd like a point of clarification from John. Are we prohibited from banning them from A1A or Peninsula or any roads
To the extent that they're driving on the street, they are a street legal vehicle and thus preempted by Chapter 316 from regulating merely as to their presence. Obviously, as the chief noted, if they're driving dangerously, they have the same tools that they have against motorcycles or cars that are driving dangerously or erratically. But you can't prevent them just from merely driving down the street. The area that we can really regulate is the rental aspect of it.
And potentially the sidewalks.
Sidewalks as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so does everyone agree we'll have Attorney Carey work with the staff to see what we can come up with?
Have you talked to the county? Do you know what they're thinking about doing with regard to the beach?
Yeah, so I actually looked up the county for my memo, and I did keyword searches like scooters, micromobility devices, didn't find anything. I did note that you sent the article though that they're apparently banned on the beach itself, and that they're.
I don't know that.
Okay.
That may have been.
Yeah, they just had, I think at the last meeting, they just had that conversation.
Right. So
And I think they did okay it.
Right, so they were banned, but my understanding of the county was that they're technically banned on the beach, but people drive them on the beach all the time, and they were basically not enforcing it, so they decided to legalize it. That's my understanding. The county may have a different spin on it. That's what I could gather from reading the accounts that I read in the news media.
I'm glad to see them on the beach because that'll keep them off the streets, or at least a certain number off the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you everyone for the discussion. Next, we'll move on to the discussion in support of banning smoking in public parks and beaches.
Mayor, can I say real quick?
Yes, certainly.
Just to tie this up. I know you had said next meeting, because of the publication deadline for the agenda, I don't think this will be ready for next meeting.
I said next, Mayor, the meeting after,
Yeah,
that's
so it'll
fine.
probably be the meeting after, just so we have more.
End of March then? Will that give you enough
Yeah.
time, end of March?
Yeah.
Okay, thank
But in the
you.
meantime, we'll forego any actions.
You've given the
So
direction.
the businesses can just conduct business in a business-like manner.
Okay. Support of banning smoking in public parks and beaches.
I'd like to make a comment on that. The title of the item is very misleading. These bills don't ban smoking. They just take away the state's preemption. They allow the local governments to make the decisions themselves. Right now, local governments cannot regulate smoking in parks and on beaches. So it's not really a ban, it's just a home rule issue where local governments typically don't want Tallahassee telling them what they can and can't do. And this is one item that I think should be reserved for the local governments to decide whether or not they want to regulate. And even putting up no smoking signs now, I assume, John, would be in violation of the law, right?
Yes, to the extent that it's in parks and beaches, because that's specifically preempted.
I'm sorry, John, can you repeat that last sentence?
I'm sorry, yes, to the extent that we're talking about parks and beaches, that would be preempted to the state. That's current law. So what these bills do is they are attempting to repeal the state's preemption, which wouldn't ban anything, but would allow the local governments to decide if they want to ban smoking in parks and beaches or not.
Or otherwise regulate, it doesn't.
Or otherwise regulate, so, include putting signs.
I'm completely lost.
Okay.
Somebody explain this to me like I'm 8 years old.
Okay, so the current state of the law in the state of Florida is that the state government gives local governments home rule power. However, the state government reserves the right to preempt certain issues from local government being able to act. In the old days, they had what was called Dillon's Rule, which basically meant local governments couldn't do anything except what was specifically authorized by the state for them to do. That changed probably nearly 100 years ago, and they turned that on its head and said home rule allows local governments to do anything for a government purpose as long as it meets a proper government purpose, except what the state says you can't do. So what the state has said that local governments can't do is regulate smoking in parks and beaches.
So then why are we talking about this?
Because there's a bill in the House and a bill in the Senate that are trying to eliminate those preemptions. So if those bills were to pass and were signed into law by the governor, the cities
Okay,
then
so
would be-
finally I get it. Okay, so the light bulb went on. So what you are.
What is the ask?
So the ask is, I think what you're asking is, Richard, is you're asking us to support the fact that if a bill, may I finish? That if a bill passes, that the local governments, us, can regulate smoking in our areas. If you want to support that bill going forward.
If we choose to, we could choose to do nothing.
Okay.
And that's-
I'm fine with supporting it. I mean,
that's
basically, the
the
more power that, you know, again, I'm not on a power grab basis, but the fact of the matter is that to Mel's point, you know, several times in meetings, you know, the can gets kicked the road to us. You know, I mean, you know, everybody's kicking the can to us, and eventually we have to make the decision. So if in fact we have the ability to regulate smoking in our public areas like McElroy Park, you know, it would be nice to be able to listen to the residents, hear what they have to say, and be able to make a decision appropriately.
Yeah, right now, we don't have a choice.
I get it, so I'm fine with, I can just speak for myself, I'm fine with supporting that bill.
I'm looking at it, you know, right now, I printed all the bills that are out there right now. So if we're in support of a bill, I want it to be something, and I understand it's a public health issue. I would rather if people, because I've gotten some calls that have said to me, don't take away my, you know, again, don't take away my rights. So they're not in favor of this too.
But we're not taking away the rights, all we're doing is saying that we are supporting a bill that would empower us to be able to make that decision. We don't have to say that we're going to take away those rights. All we're saying to the residents is that we would like the ability to be able to regulate our city the way the residents, the will of the people would like. And that's all we're asking. We can, I mean, you can stand here and say, we don't want to take away that right. People like smoking cigars on beaches. People, I mean, but that empowers you to be able to make that decision where now you don't have that power. You're totally beholden to the state.
Well, one of the interesting things I read, even though the county controls the beach within our city limits can be controlled by us with the
As long as
smoking.
it doesn't,
Is that correct,
as
Richard?
long as it doesn't conflict with the county ordinance.
Right.
So if they say smoking is fine on the beaches, we can't say it's not fine.
You're empowered, the better.
Is there, do you know if there's a county regulation against smoking?
There can't be because of the preemption. So right now, the state has a preemption that prevents local governments,
Oh, that's right,
including
there.
the city
Yeah,
and the
you
county.
have to think of this in two parts. Where we are now and where we would be if these bills passed. And so where we are now, we can't do anything. And
Can't make any decisions.
let me just make a general comment. One reason why there are a lot of preemptions at the state is because the lobbies find it much easier to go to the state. Let's say this preemption was done by the tobacco, some subset of tobacco lobby. Then to go around to all the local governments and lobby for whatever their position is. So that's sort of the political behind this current state of affairs, and a lot of places where there's preemption, that the lobbies go to the state preempts the local governments, and they find it easier to do than they just have to deal with one set of people rather than all the local governments.
Okay, and I'm going to piggyback off of this again about, so right now in our packet, it says that we would want something similar to Fort Lauderdale resolution, and I think Councilman Frizzlone got it, and I still don't. So if I'm reading this resolution, it says the resolution urging the Florida legislature to enact legislation to prohibit the smoking of tobacco.
Yeah, let me explain that, Nancy. That resolution was for last year, and I don't know what the state of the bill was. But I've already talked to John, that's not the way the bill, that's not the way our resolution would be titled. This does not prohibit smoking, so it would say something like we support SB 334 and HB, whatever it is. It wouldn't say we support banning smoking.
Right, so the ask here is, I think, to authorize me to draft a resolution for next meeting in support of these bills on behalf of the city council, if that's your will.
Okay, and I have no problem with that whatsoever, but I guess I'm gonna ask you, Councilman Bryan, so right now I pulled all the bills that are in legislature right now, it looks like maybe 15 to 20. Why this particular one? Why not short-term rentals and, I mean, where do we stop and which ones?
It's kind of like I said, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. If there are bills that other people would like to see supported, you can bring them up yourself or let me know and I'll research them. But, we're not limited to supporting just one bill. We can support as many as the council members want, to support.
Well, today I did a Zoom meeting of Florida League of Cities with a state representative.
Yeah.
And he was basically talking to elected officials and telling us how important it was to hear from their constituents. But individually, they do not carry the same weight as a resolution does by the city council. He gave he pointed to a case where he talked to the mayor and asked the mayor, and the mayor says, "Oh, it's no big deal to us." And it turned out the other 4 council members were for it, against it, whatever, opposite of what the mayor was. So he said there's no better ammunition he has than a council resolution that he can go around and show the people, the other representatives, that, hey, this city's behind it, this city's behind it. It's not an individual, it's the city is behind it.
Right.
So I think we need to pick and choose our topics and don't waste our ammunition as somebody who passes a resolution on everything that's there. But I think when we do, a resolution is important, according to the representative.
Yeah, I heard that meeting too this afternoon.
Hey, are we ready now to take, where are we at, Councilman Carey, Attorney Carey, ready to take?
We don't have a motion yet, but if you, it really doesn't require a motion, since all you're doing at this point is directing me to draft a resolution. So if I have the consensus of the council, I will draft the resolution in accordance with the direction I've been given. So I just need a consensus that you want to move forward on this.
Councilman Plagas, I thought last time you maybe had a little bit of reservation. Do you want to speak up on this or not?
I have no interest whatsoever in sending a recommendation to the people up in Tallahassee. They're going to do what they want to do. They're going to do it based on people that are a lot smarter than we are and have a lot more power than we do. And when you start getting into this type of thing, guess what's going to happen to your agenda? We're going to be here until midnight because someone else is going to come in and say, you know what, we should support this and send a resolution that we support this. And all of a sudden, you're cherry picking all these House bills. We need to just focus on our city and focus on doing what's right for our citizens. I haven't heard anyone complain to me about someone smoking a pack of Marlboros at the bocce courts, because nobody does that. And if someone's on the beach and there's a family, I can assure you, who's smoking is the father. It's not the person next to them. And I mean, how much are we going to try and... I don't think that we'll have any ability to influence, and I just think it'll take time away and resources away from things that are more, I guess, more that impact us. Yes, I respect Councilman Bryan's concern about smoke, and I know smoke causes cancer and people dying, but no one's ever called me complaining that they're on the beach and someone's smoking a pack of Marlboros and they want me to do something about it. No one's ever called me complaining about the park. Again, you're sending a letter. Ooh, we got a resolution from the city of Daytona Beach Shores that says they would really support our House bill. That ain't gonna carry.
And are you saying, before I let you go, are you saying like any of these, so I pulled up all of these, are you saying?
We could start now, we start with this one, then all of a sudden one other city councilman will say, you know what, I want to do this, I want to do that.
But that's our decision. I mean.
Of course, I'm telling you my opinion.
I think the message is you can pick and choose what you think is important. And so that really is the issue. Is this an important issue for us to be able to want to get our arms around? So to the mayor's point, if you look at it, there was short-term rentals in there, there was a cadre of things in there that may or may not be dear to our heart, but at least we get to pick it. I completely disagree with you about the importance of regulating smoking. I can tell you, Mike, that if you're in a condominium, you are going to hear it. We have a situation in Palmabella whereby we have cigar smokers. I am one of them. And we have residents who, that on their balconies, do not want to have the offensiveness of having cigarette smoke right next to them. And again, it's up to the board and listening to their people as to whether or not they want to regulate smoking on the balconies, because right now, the way it was written up, as you probably well know, is that your condominium is your domain, and your balcony is your domain. And you can do whatever you want within those four walls on the balcony. But now you have a number of people who have raised their hands saying, I don't want somebody smoking a pack of Marlboro right next to me. It's affecting my life, it's affecting my health, and it's affecting my well-being. And so we have to make that decision. So the question is that in this particular issue, smoking is a big issue. In California, you can't smoke anywhere. In New York, you can't smoke anywhere. Here you can, and you've got a number of city councils saying, I agree with the ban on smoking, and so it just empowers us to be able to make that decision. Your point is well taken. We can make a decision as to what's important and what's not important, but in this particular case, I think smoking and having somebody, going to the beach and running the beach, you're in great shape, you run the beach. Having somebody smoke a pack of Marlboro when you're sitting outside on a beach is not a very attractive thing.
No.
Oh, it's not.
I agree.
Okay, so, that's the issue. And while, I love a cigar, and I'm now saying to myself, you know what? I'll go to a cigar bar. I'll go because I don't want to put my neighbors at risk and have them feel like, I am overtaking them. So those are the kinds of things that are going to come before us, and I think this is an important issue.
Plus, we won't know whether we have an impact. If we don't do anything, we know we won't have any impact. If we do something, I guess we may or may not have an impact. We'll find out.
So
Well,
this,
where just an aside on this, probably the number one thing that's left behind by people are the cigarette butts
It's unbelievable.
with the filters, yeah.
Unbelievable.
so right now, we're just in support of being able to, for it to come back to us, a home rule, to be able, at that time, we might say we're not gonna do anything about it, but.
Correct.
All right.
But again, I think the city manager could speak about that. I mean, look at what happened to us in Volusia County by them taking a power grab and buying our oceanfront property, shoving it down our noses, and we could do nothing about it. We had to sit there and we had to take it over and over and over again. And it is a power grab. At the end of the day, Mike, they are not smarter than we are. I can tell you right now, there is nobody at the state level that's smarter than the five of us. I'm sorry, they're not, period. And so, you have situations whereby it's a power grab, and they like the power, and they like being able to go to the local cities and tell the local mayor, you're going to do this because I told you to. And this is our chance to say, not so fast.
Yeah. And Rick, it's not just a power grab, it's the influence of lobbyists.
No question. Well, but it goes part and parcel with the same thing.
Right.
All right, so, Attorney Carey, I think you have a consensus with the four of us that go ahead with that resolution. But I definitely do not want it to read, that's why I was so confused when I read the water,
We'll make sure it's relevant to the current bills and not to the prior year. He sent that as an example of a resolution, but it will be.
Well, it's a little confusing, though.
And again, you're saying the residents are coming to you, and I can speak as a county. I'd rather have the decision rest in your hands than I would in the state's hands. I can tell you that right. You're closest to the pin.
Okay, all right, if there's no more discussion, we're gonna move on to new business. The first one is the Economic Development New Business Lease Subsidy, a grant application for NSB e-bikes.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. The applicant, NSB Bikes, also doing business as Daytona Electric Bikes, submitted an economic development grant application on December 12th and is requesting a new business lease subsidy grant totaling in the amount of $5,400. They are located on 116 Dunlawton Avenue, and they are here tonight if you have any questions. They did do everything that we asked of them, so.
That's all that included.
And they are not planning on having any scooters. Okay. They are doing bicycle services for bicycles along with the electronic bikes too, so.
All right, great. Okay, any questions? So again, just to clarify, was the $5,400 the total over the 3-year span? So that's the 30, 20, and 10?
Correct.
Any questions?
I think that they've heard all of our concerns, and I'm sure that they will comply with what's requested of them. They seem very cooperative in our economic development meeting, and hopefully they will continue to be so.
Okay, any questions of either our Recreation Economic Development Director or the owners? Okay, well, welcome to Daytona Beach Shores.
Really waiting for some questions. Really want to answer that scooter.
Made you wait a long time, didn't we?
Okay, do I hear a motion to accept this?
I'll move to approve the subject grant application.
I second it.
Thank you. Any discussion on it? Okay, if no discussion, Sherry, can you take a roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Pelagus?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Councilmember Frislow?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. Okay, item B is Economic Development New Business Lease Subsidy for Realty Pros Assured, 3118 South Atlantic Avenue. You want to read that for us, please?
Sure. The applicant, Realty Pros Assured, submitted an economic development grant application on January 22nd to 2021, requesting a new business lease subsidy grant totaling the amount of $14,400 over the course of the 3 years. And as you all, some of you were there the other night, they did have the grand opening just last Thursday. And they've been a great partner already in helping us promote commercial business here at Daytona Beach Shores and through the chamber. So we're excited that they're here in Daytona Beach Shores.
Can you, just expand on that? And I agree, they're going to be a great partner. I thought originally that, we were looking at more retail, looking at places to eat and everything. So tell me why, and I know you felt strongly about this, tell me why this one you felt you wanted to.
Well, one of the realtors is the past president of the chamber. She is working on the Economic Development Chamber Committee with us. We are highlighting different properties here in the shores that we want to see taking, hopefully someone will be interested in. And also, 6 of the 7 realtors at this office are Daytona Beach Shores residents. So, and the other one's Wilbur by the Sea, so she's not very far. But yes, I think it's important that we're.
I think the mayor's point is well taken, and you and I discussed this at the last economic development meeting. The funds are going to run out at some point, and we have to be careful that we use them in what's going to benefit the majority of the residents. And we are looking for more retail and restaurants, possibly
Dinner.
professional. I don't know what.
Not gift shops.
About that one, but I think the real problem is that we have to give you guidance and either agree that that's what we want or not, because we do not want to fill the city up with real estate offices and similar things. So I think that if the council can at least agree to give the staff some guidance of what we're looking for, that we're looking for restaurants and retail shops and so forth, that they could tell people in the beginning, council is not going to approve it, so they don't go through the whole process of thinking they're going to be approved and staff not being able to tell them that you're not going to get approved and waste everybody's time. So I think staff is looking for guidance, and I think it's our job to give staff guidance.
Yeah, I agree with that. Their doing business here doesn't depend on this grant, right? They're not gonna fold up their tent and go home if they don't get this grant.
No, they already signed the lease.
Huh?
They already signed the lease and they're already there.
I'm just saying,
Well, in this case here, I think there are a number of
Extenuating
reasons why
circumstances.
we would probably still approve it anyway. We have our economic development program, which they can really help us with. They can partner with the city to we can tell them what we're looking for. They can go out and try to recruit people for the open spaces that they have. In addition to that, we have, as she pointed out, the majority of the people are residents of the city, and I think that's important too. And they filled an empty space, which is something that we wanted, and they spend a lot of money there. Not that it's our job to reimburse them for it, but the fact is, they certainly improved the tax basis for that property, I would think.
If we make it clear that this is a one-off.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
We're not setting a precedent.
No, I'm saying that we probably do not want to, probably want to tell staff that we were not going to approve any more real estate offices and any other kind of business that didn't fall into, let's say, restaurants and retail. I think that's what we're looking for. That's what we want to get the most bang for our buck, and that's what residents are going to support.
And Vice Mayor Linda, as we discussed, staff with you, we were willing and more than happy to have a workshop with you all so that we can discuss what you all do want and what you don't want.
Yeah,
And we were talking about having that
We
in.
can broadly say and agree now that we want retail and restaurants, then we don't have to go any farther. But if we want to get into the weeds, we probably need a workshop with the staff so we know what we will and won't approve.
And that's something we can look at in the future. You know, again, that's why I wanted to ask you your reasoning on this, because, you know, I did hear some feedback about that too. So the two things that you had talked about, the commercial aspect, you know, helping us bring in more of those businesses, and the residents. So, any other questions on this one? If not, do I have a motion to accept this? Somebody?
Motion to accept.
Thank you.
Second.
No other discussion? Sherry, can you take the roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Frizzlo?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Politis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, thank you. We're on to council comments right now. So, Councilman Bryan, I'll start with you. Do you have anything for us this evening?
Yeah, I talked with the Port Orange, the counterpart of Fred Hyatt at Port Orange, and also the engineering manager who's in charge of this project to build a new force main under the Halifax River. And I'll just point out a couple of top-level things. The current plan is to have an engineering design phase that will probably last 9 to 12 months and will cost on the order of $600,000. They plan to put a new 20-inch main parallel to the existing 20-inch, and it will go under the river. I'm not sure whether the current one is laying on the river or goes under the river, but this new one will go under the river about probably 7 or 8 feet, and it will be polypropylene, which will tend to last a lot longer than a metal. I asked them what's the ballpark price for the actual project, and they threw out a number like $3 million. You know, it's not something I told them I'm not going to hold them to that. Obviously, I can't, even if I wanted to, but that just gives you an idea of what they're thinking about spending on it. They are not looking for participation from any of the people that are using it, other than they would like to have our help when they go out for grant applications, to sort of add weight to the grant applications. So I think at a high level, that's all I really want to say about that. And I do have another question about, and this is maybe for John Kerry, with regard to development agreements, at what stage do they become public records?
That's a bit of a tricky question.
That's why I asked.
And having not had advanced notice of this question, I'd really rather research and give you a good answer rather than off the cuff
That's
answer.
acceptable.
Probably when it's submitted to the planning board for consideration, because they go first and then we get it.
Yeah, I just want to make sure before I give you
Yeah.
an off-the-cuff answer, because I don't want to say something and then look it up tonight and realize I gave you the wrong information in a public meeting.
That's fine.
That's how it works in Daytona, though.
Yeah.
Because I've done that
And I
before.
think that's probably correct, and if my off-the-cuff answer would be that, but
And the reason why is the art of negotiation
Right.
produces the best results. Sometimes the city gives up things that the developer takes, but then the developer gives things that the city wants, and there's an exchange back and forth, and it's almost like an à la carte menu. You'll have 10 items on one side, 10 items on the other, and there's give and take. And while it's being negotiated, they don't want other people to influence, they just want a rep from the city.
It's
rep
almost
from
like
the
a
developer.
non-disclosure, like an NDA.
Oh, yes, sure is.
Okay, is anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. Councilman Lindauer?
I don't have
Vice
any
Mayor
comments.
Landauer?
I've done enough tonight.
Okay, all right. Attorney Carey, I had a question for you. You know, previously, we were under a contract that everything was billable hours. And right now, we're not under that, so we really don't know. But I just wondered, when, with each one of the council members and myself, what can we come to you and ask you to do that is not approved by the whole council? Can you expand on that? I just want to say, can I tell you, to do something, or does it need to be the whole?
Any of you are allowed at any time to give me a call and ask me for legal advice or my legal opinion on anything. There's no prohibition on that whatsoever. I encourage you to do so. If you have any questions about an ordinance or a state law or a potential conflict that you may have, by all means, you should call me or Becky at our disposal. There's no problem with that.
Where is the line? I guess I'm asking you where the
Well,
line is.
I think the line would be essentially where where board action would be required as far as requesting something that could impact the city. So, for example, I would always be willing to talk to you about my legal opinion on something. It's a little dicier if you ask for a memo, for example, that provides my legal opinion. And the reason for that is because a memo is a public record. So if we were ever in litigation about something that was covered in the memo, the other side could request it and then have my legal thoughts, legal impressions, and that could potentially be evidence in court that they try to get admitted, and I'd have to try to fight the admission, and if they were able to get it admitted, they may be able to go to the jury and say, look, this is the attorney's thoughts about their own liability, so you should listen to their attorney. You don't even have to listen to me, this is what their attorney says.
So if I wanted a memo written, I cannot do that on my own. That's something that I would need to bring up at city council or workshop and say, hey, this is what I'm interested in doing? Or-
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime that, in general, that you want something reduced to writing, that would take collective board action, it would probably, should come from the board as a whole. So for example, if you have a question about whether you need to recuse yourself on a case, I'd be happy to write a memo for you since that's personal to you, or, if there's a conflict. But if it would implicate the city as a whole or the city council as a whole, I think at that point it should come before the council as a whole rather than from an individual.
Okay, thank you.
And if you'd like to, I can certainly provide you, my written thoughts at the next meeting and some sort of clarification, or policy when it's at the pleasure of the council, how you want to handle it.
Okay, and Becky's in full support.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, my next thing is I want a reminder about the concert this Friday, our first time ever food trucks. So I'd like to support this as much as we can. It's going to be at McElroy Park, right behind the pavilion. It starts at 4:30, and then starting at 5 p.m., we will have our end of the month Friday night concerts. Thank you. Councilman Frizzlon?
I'm fine, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Councilman Politis?
I am as well, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Sherry, no other audience comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay, does anyone else have anything they want to say? This is the time, even if you haven't signed a paper, I let you speak. Okay, if not, then we'll,
Wait a minute, wait a
oh, I'm sorry.
What is the,
Could you come up? I'm sorry. We have to have public record. We need your name and, we're not putting you on the spot, but,
all right, well, my name is Matthew Riley, and I was just wondering, I live in Daytona Beach Shores.
thank you, Matthew.
Thank you. What is going on across the street from like Ocean's Luxury?
Oh, that is where our new, it's called Peck, what's it called? Peck what? Like Peck? It's gonna be a new park. Do you know like Frank Rendon Park? It's gonna be almost a duplicate of that. So that was the one, if you'd heard a little bit of contention, I mean, that was property that the county purchased. Very expensive property.
Okay.
They purchased and they're gonna be putting a park in there.
Cool. I thought it was like a building or something I missed, so I was.
No, we wished it, we would have liked it to be a hotel or a
Yeah,
condo, but.
We would have got the tax revenue,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you for asking. And I appreciate you coming to a lot of the meetings. I appreciate you being here. Okay, do we have any items for next agenda? Okay, if no,
The resolution will be on the next agenda, right?
oh, the resolution on the next agenda?
Will that be on the next one?
Yeah.
That one, that will be.
The ordinance won't be, the resolution.
Okay, anything else? If not, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.